Hey there, this is Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, we scrutinize, and we celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.fun.
And I'm Greg Wyshynski. I'm the co-host of Mise en Pod, a food television podcast with my dear wife, Ruby Edmondson. And that's available on the Puck Soup podcast Patreon each month.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us again.
Well, like I said, it's a monthly podcast, so I don't have to really do anything until we record Mise en Pod. So I have plenty of time for the Star Wars Minute.
Okay. Got it. Cool.
I have a question. Do you think you might cover there's a new show coming up on the Food Network. So it's on the Food Network. It's like Outrageous Pumpkins or something like that. I don't think they're eating them. I think they're carving them for Halloween. So it's food, but it's not being eaten, and it's on the Food Network. Does that count?
It does. We cover a lot of Food Network shows. We've covered like cake wars and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Not just the cooking competition shows. When Top Chef is in season, we cover Top Chef weekly. And then otherwise, we kind of do whatever the food show is that we end up watching on Food Network or Netflix. And then sometimes we do deep dives on individuals. For example, I think our next episode is going to be a deep dive on Kristen Kish, who is the new host of Top Chef. So it's really anything that strikes our fancy. Yeah, Padma left the show, and Kristen is
I knew
the
that.
new
I
host.
I didn't know they announced a replacement.
Yeah, well, that's why you gotta listen to Mise en Pod to figure out what the hell's going on here.
Exactly.
So it's good stuff. But yeah, we might do.
Straight.
What is it called? Outrageous Pumpkins?
Something like I look up the exact title because it's one of the judges is a former guest of the show, friend of the show, Ralph Atanasia, formerly of Cake Boss and Buddy vs. Duff. Brilliant. And so he's
I was under the impression Outrageous Pumpkins is when Billy Corgan played both James Eha and Darcy's parts on Siamese Dream. That was a very Outrageous Pumpkins moment.
That's just like standard operating pumpkins. That's just how it goes. Outrageous Pumpkins. By the time you hear this episode, you've already watched some Outrageous Pumpkins, I think. You there in TV land. So.
Well, thank you for joining us, even though it doesn't take up that much of your time. We're talking about minute 123 of The Rise of Skywalker. Open up your books at home and turn to minute 123. Minute 123 starts with Finn tearing up after he force senses that Ben Solo will be the one who saves Rey. And it ends a minute later with Ben Solo picking up the lifeless corpse of Rey.
Mm-hmm.
It occurred to me something today. You can tell she's not dead because they wouldn't spend so much time lingering over her body laying there. You know what I mean? If she really died, they wouldn't have her laying there with them kind of focusing on her. So that's kind of a meta way you can tell when a character isn't really dead.
Like Pete mentioned, there ain't a whole lot that happens in this minute, but there is one thing, and I wanted to point it out, which is, so we can debate the virtues of J.J. Abrams as a filmmaker until the cows come home. I think that he's got his successes and his failures and his good and his bad. I will say that the man knows how to shoot a scene. I think he's got a real eye for perspective. I enjoy the camera movements in his films. I think he's a pretty good director. Whether the end result is ultimately overall good or not, I think his films are interesting to look at. And the shot of you guys know what I'm talking about. The shot of the camera kind of like panning, it's kind of like moving back over the hole where Kylo fell in, and you see his hand like grip the side of the hole dramatically.
Yeah.
If J.J. Abrams, if we're dealing with our auteur theory, and there is a shot that looks like it's from a J.J. Abrams film, I would say the mise en scène, the lighting, all of it, and that hand coming up and just kind of jumping out into the frame is a classic J.J. Abrams trope and a really cool shot.
Yeah, I do like it. I like it enough that I was going to suggest it would be really bold to just end the movie on that, because then it's like a Jason Voorhees kind of like, it's like you feel like the whole like, oh, everybody, we blew up some Star Destroyers, cut back to Rey, and then like pull back and it's like Rey's done, and then like done, and then who knows what's going to happen.
And then you would never bring it up ever again.
Yeah, and no need to resolve anybody else's story. So
the Disney executives were like, shouldn't there be more of a yub nub moment at the end where they're all kind of like celebrating having saved the galaxy? And Pete's like, no, there's a hand, it grips the edge, you cut the black, it's like The Sopranos.
That's it.
People will love it.
You got to bring him back in. They'll be wondering what happened.
If they could have somehow have made this a 2-part thing and somehow kept it a secret up until the end of the movie, that would have been pretty cool. If you got to the end of episode 9 and it said to be continued in part 2 of episode 9.
In episode
when you went in, you didn't know that the secret wouldn't last very long, obviously.
You just have to wait until the end of the credits, where the last credit you see is Ben Solo will return in The Adventures of Ben Solo. And that's all. That's your teaser.
Yeah.
Remember when that was the stinger at the end of credits? Like, Marvel changed the game, obviously, with all that.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be like you'd wait to the end of the credits and be like, James Bond will return. You're like, oh my God, that's great news. He's coming back, folks.
Do you think people waited around to learn that?
I did.
Then?
To learn the title, definitely.
You get past the music, the songs, you get past the thank yous, you get past the film boards to find out if New York was actually Vancouver, and then at the very, very end, it says, blah, blah, blah will return. The Ghostbusters will return, and Ghostbusters 2, like, or whatever. Like, and you're just like, thank God I waited all this time through all of the songs to find out that they're coming back.
Like Buckaroo Banzai. Don't they do that in Buckaroo Banzai?
Yeah, but he never came back.
Never came
Yeah.
back.
They would never make the next part of it. That's the beauty of it. They would just leave it at that and leave it up in the air for the audience to fill in
like
whatever they want.
Like the Clone Wars. They'll just be like,
exactly.
Like Ben Solo will return, and our architects of Gribbenblald, and they'll be like, what? And then you never see that again.
Right.
I was trying to think of other movies that have hands popping up out of them. You mentioned does Jason Voorhees, do you actually see his hand pop up at one point?
I'm not terribly familiar with those, but doesn't he like pop out of a lake or something?
He does. He jumps out of a lake. But most famously, I think Carrie is the one where the hand juts out of the grave. Yeah, it's the one that everybody thinks of. Yeah. And
they did a similar shot in The Last Jedi where she catches the lightsaber that Snoke, after Kylo Ren does the Snoke trick of cutting Snoke in half, Rey's hand pops up to catch the lightsaber when it's coming towards the camera. So similar thing. Ring theory.
This shot reminds me most of the shot that basically sold Force Awakens in the first trailer, which was the shot of the desert and then Finn popping into frame is what this reminds me of the most. Like, that was, again, like, say what you will about that movie, but like the excitement that trailer created, where like desert, stormtrooper, black stormtrooper, not a clone stormtrooper, what's happening now? Different, fun, maybe. It was awesome, and that's what this shot reminded me of.
When interesting, when I can still remember the Phantom. I'm sure we can all remember the first Phantom Menace trailer and how exciting it was, and that was when I definitely remember being like, speculating on what was going to happen based. Well, who is that character? What is that? First Star Wars thing we've had in 18 years or whatever. I don't remember feeling anything. I remember some speculation about Finn, but I don't really remember what people said about the trailer, like in terms of who they thought people were, or you know what I mean? I feel like there was a lot of that with the Phantom Menace, but I can't remember thinking. I'm sure it happened, but it didn't stick to my brain the way the Phantom Menace did.
Well, that's because
that was filling holes. Kind of.
Well, Phantom Menace was it had the prequel thing going on, right? It was like this is the first Star Wars in a long time. and we're
Long
excited to see what's going on. But the whatever we saw in the Force Awakens trailer was completely drowned out by the fact that like Han Solo was coming back. Like that's all really people cared about. It's like, okay,
That's true. That moment
here's
was
our guy.
That was the iconic moment. Yeah.
Like here's all your new friends. We're like, that's great. Harrison Ford is Han Solo again. Take all of the money that you can possibly take from me. I will be there.
That should have been an alternate trailer of just him being like, "Hello, I'm Harrison Ford. I'm in this movie. Come see it." Like that's it.
You remember me from some such movies as Witness and Mosquito Coast.
He's getting on a plane as he's recording it because he literally can't take any time out of it. He's like, I'm going to be on the new Star Wars film. And he gets up.
Because he's flying it, because he's the pilot. Yeah.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be in the new Star Wars film again.
I literally cannot tell you. Two things that I want to bring up. One is what you said about JJ made me think of like, do we have examples of movies that he directed but didn't write? Or does he just go all in for all of them? I can't think of...
No, he's written and directed. Like, so we had Super 8, right? We had Mission Impossible 3. We had Force Awakens. We had Rise of Skywalker. Am I missing anything?
I don't know.
I have a device here that will update us. Everything J.J. Abrams has been working on.
Of course, the Star Trek films, yeah. Star Trek and then Star Trek Terrible and then Star Trek Beastie Boys, the trilogy that we all remember.
Jeffrey Jacob.
These are the things he wrote. Star Wars Episode 9, Star Wars Episode 7. A lot of createds by Super 8. He didn't write anything between he wrote Super 8 and the next thing he wrote was Star Wars. I don't know if that's
So
his movies have a certain look. The camera does certain things. I don't know. Like you could show me Mission and you could show me Star Trek and you can show me Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker, and I will say those were all made by the same director. It just has a look to it. Now, maybe the look
he
is
definitely
like,
has a stamp.
Yeah,
he has a stamp, and it's not simply just like Spielberg derivative. Like there are certain things that he does with the camera, like for example in Force Awakens, we're on Han's ship that are very sort of J.J. Abrams, like camera pans quickly and people are already running at it. That kind of thing is a very J.J. Abrams type move.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some, again, like there's some taken on their own. There's some really cool and lovely, interesting shots in this movie. They just are attached to what I think is a pretty bad narrative.
Well, that seems like Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness are the only two movies that he directed but didn't write. And those were also, I don't think those count. I'm going to say that those don't count because those are, franchise movies done by committee, like a lot of these, like the Star Wars movies. Like no one person is really fully to praise or to blame for the success of the scripts, except for, going back to George Lucas's individual visions.
How much credit do you give JJ on a movie like Cloverfield? Like, obviously he didn't direct it, but was a driving force behind it, I think. And that was fun. The most beautiful thing that man has ever put in a movie, by the way, did not come from Star Wars, did not come from Mission. It's that shot, and again, like major assist from the music in this case, but like at the beginning of the Trek reboot, when after Kirk's father rams his ship into the thing, and then it's just like the debris field and the sun is there and the music starts going. It's like, it's what I that is for me when we talk about like rewatchable stuff. Like if I catch Trek on TV and it's the beginning, I will sit through just to see that into the title sequence. I think is like one of the most beautiful things that's been put to film in like the last 30 years. To be hyperbolic about it.
Yeah, he's good at starting stuff. That's another good, like the first 40 minutes of Force Awakens or some of my favorite Star Wars stuff, just because it's like, all right, up until stuff starts happening. When you're just introducing people and kind of, establishing stuff, love it.
Yeah, if you cut to black before you get to Maz's place, then you've got yourself a sci-fi classic.
But I'd like to see him take on, I'd like to see like a super group, essentially. I'd like to see J.J. Abrams do like either like a script done by, like a popular, respected Hollywood writer, somebody who's, like a very, very much known for their screenplays, and then just take it and film it as is, pretty much. I want to see his stamp on something that's well crafted by an individual. I'm putting that out into the universe. I'd like to see that.
All right.
I want Wes Anderson and J.J. Abrams each to write it, have a script, and then they switch them. And
wow.
J.J. Abrams directs the Wes Anderson story, and there you go. Who do you think would be better at it? Who would produce a better film, do you think?
Depends on what you mean by better.
Which one would you enjoy more, do you think? I could see either one being good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I want that to happen. I thought you were going to say they should each do the same script. There should be like one script that a bunch of people get, and like make 5 of the same movie, but each director gets.
I think that's
cast.
called Hollywood.
Yeah, right. Each one's about an asteroid that's going to collide with the Earth.
Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, and JJ directs Skipper, the sequel to Barbie.
There you go. But yes, anyway, all that wishful Hollywood stuff that's not going to happen. Hey, I have a theory instead. Or what do you think about this idea?
I've got a theory.
Kylo Ren knocked over the side of the crevasse here. I mean, Ben Solo, sorry, knocked over the side of the crevasse.
I'm on board.
Fight is over. He comes back up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, it's okay." Like, do you think in my head, there's room for the idea that like he would have just done the same thing if Palpatine had won? He would have come up and be like, "Oh, like yeah, you were right, Master. Dark side, yes, let's do this thing." Like, I think he was just like hanging out and being like, "Okay, let's let the dust settle here and see what's going on."
Literally.
Oh, yeah, literally let the dust settle.
Cultists.
So he's in the hole, and he's just there, and he just hears all this stuff happening and sees all this craziness happening above his head, big waves of force power and what have you. And he's just down there being like, I'm going to see how this thing plays out.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't know what happened up there, but something definitely happened.
Whoever won, I'm totally on their side.
Yeah.
Right.
I was with them all
I like
along.
it.
Oh,
yep.
Oh, good. It's the girl. Instead of the creepy grandpa.
Right.
Yeah, I'm all for that theory. I think that I mean, like we said, he was evil, kind of for a long time there. He was conflicted, but he was, he did some really bad things and was a bad guy.
He did a lot of murders. He did much murdering.
Yeah, remember he killed what's his name, the Swedish guy, way back in the first one.
I would have liked it better if we went along with that Palpatine isn't really Palpatine, but a clone that thinks it's Palpatine. You know what I mean? Like maybe the First Order created it because they wanted Palpatine back and they got this, Habsburg monstrosity and they just had to like keep it up. Well, this is the Emperor now. And then, so you could still have a big space battle at the end and stuff like that, but the Emperor would not be a factor in the final battle.
Right.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I am Palpatine.
It's like an animatronic. Like, do it. Do it.
That would be cool, actually. You didn't...
You see Hux back there.
You didn't see Palpatine until the end.
Right, yeah, Hux.
like a marionette. You saw... It was I who created Snoke, who created you.
Right.
Anyway.
And I created him.
Great.
Like,
He's so great.
Hux pops out.
Hux is back there.
So, Greg, you've obviously been...
voice coder on his throat.
You obviously still feel strongly about Star Wars and have been keeping up with it and stuff. Are there any projects on the horizon that you particularly are excited about or things you would like to see? Like, what's your pitch for a Star Wars project? You wanted to do a short story for your... Go ahead.
If I ever did a short story for any of these books that they'll never invite me to work on because I write about hockey, like I just want somebody to assign me. I'm good at somebody saying write about this, and I can make magic with it. So if you're out there, editors of these books, come to Greggy and be like, we need somebody to write about the Space Horse, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm your man. As far as the projects that I hope to see, I do hope that we get around to seeing Rey do like a Jedi Academy thing. That'd be pretty cool. You could even do a thing where there's like a piece of Palpatine inside of her because of the power sucking thing or the battle of it all. Like that's cool too.
Horcrux.
Sure, why not? Horcrux, exactly. And
I think they'll totally
then
drop the whole They will not bring up Palpatine at all in the next movie.
Like
think
just
you're
like
probably
Emperor
right.
Palpatine.
She's
She'd be like, who?
Rey Skywalker, baby. And then the other thing is, I'm all in on. We mentioned it before we were recording. Like when the X-Files decided to end big quotes their like alien conspiracy thing in a film. Like there's been talk of the Filoniverse kind of resolving itself in a big screen adventure involving the Mandalorian and Ahsoka and all that. Give it to me. Give it to me, baby. That's all. That'd be amazing. Like all of our TV friends, all of our Disney Plus friends on the big screen, having adventures, closing out the Thrawn stuff. Like that would be really amazing. And I think also quite successful. You throw yourself a little Baby Yoda on a poster, guess who's coming? Everybody to go see that movie.
It's true. Yeah.
Right. You could just be on it, like, come see my movie. Like,
and honestly,
boom.
like, you know, we talk about how it's very hard now to build your cinematic universe to the point of having your own Avengers thing. Honestly, that's probably the closest that we could come is the culmination of all these TV threads in a big screen movie. We get all of our favorites on the screen at the same time and see them interact for the first time. Like that put butts in seats, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to think of like who else would they throw in there from all this? You get old man Boba Fett, you get the Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, Ahsoka.
Baby Yoda. Yep.
You talking about what other characters from
all of Mando's friends?
Other thing.
Carl Weathers.
Characters.
Right. Cobb Vanth.
Carl Weathers, Amy Sedaris.
Yeah, Carl Weathers comes in and he's like,
Amy Sedaris.
Ahsoka! Right. And you're like, oh my god, Carl Weathers did the thing.
You got the whole Bo-Katan, all those Mandalorians there. You got the washboard abs, Boba Fett's sidekick.
Right?
I hope the Major Domo from Mos Espa comes back.
The mayor's assistant.
The Voltron bikers from Tatooine, they're all together. From that girl from Yellow Jackets who I like so much. And
right.
It's all of them.
I mean, theoretically, we could see Lando. They could bring back Donald Glover as Lando.
Right, yeah.
You could do it all. Yeah, do it after Lando and then have it be in the movie too. Again, I get a thrill out of any time you see people from two different shows interacting at the same time. I watch all the Law and Orders that involve all of the other Law and Orders being on the Law and Order show together. I even liked when Iron Fist talked to Luke Cage. How exciting was that? I didn't even give a shit about Iron Fist. And I just thought it was fun that he was there with Luke Cage and Daredevil. So give me all these people in a movie and that would make me a happy boy. And again, we talk about what can be a successful Star Wars movie. That would be a successful Star Wars movie to do that without question.
Yeah.
Would you be in favor of a MCU Star Wars crossover?
No, not at all. Just keep that separate.
So you draw the line at some crossovers here. In-universe crossovers are okay, but I was reading franchises.
I was reading the IMDb for Rise of the Skywalker, and I did see that there was mention of the ship from Firefly being one of the ships that's in the massive scene of all the ships in the universe showing up. Did you guys know that there was apparently is it Serenity or Firefly? What it was the name of the ship from Firefly? I think it is the
Serenity, and it is a Firefly type ship.
Apparently, it's there in the shot, which means that that they exist, I guess, in the Star Wars universe.
And there you go.
The ship
exciting
does,
times.
or a ship with similar design does at least.
I mean, basically just to say that Nathan Fillion exists in Star Wars universe. So yeah, that's exciting too.
Where's he been? What's he been up to? He's on a TV show or something?
Wasn't the Star
Fillion
Wars universe
is-
somehow connected to the whole St. Elsewhere thing? Wasn't there somewhere a Star Wars connection to it?
that Star Wars is taking place in a snow globe being held by a child? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion was on a show called The Rookie, where he was like an older cop that was a rookie.
Right.
But also, like, if this opens the door to him as Captain Hammer from Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog in the Star Wars universe, I'm all for it.
Exactly.
Him explaining to Chewie that his penis is the hammer.
Right.
I mean, again, worth the price of admission.
Alex is furiously looking up how Star Wars is connected to St. Elsewhere.
Yeah, I saw. I reminded me that St. Elsewhere and Cheers crossed over. Anyway, I will not just stand here looking at the phone. People can Google Tommy Westfall Star Wars. Apparently, there is a connection somewhere. Dwayne McDuffie was responsible for it. So, anyway,
but it's in the thinnest of threads. You could say that by anyone who appears on this show could be established as being in the MCU also, because remember, there's one thing in the MCU where they're watching Cake Boss, and Ralph from Cake Boss has been on the show a lot. And so in theory, if Cake Boss exists in the MCU, then Ralph from that MCU, Ralph was on our MCU version of our show, and therefore all the guests get backdoored into MCU.
I have a direct, if you count the Muppet Show as canon, Luke Skywalker was on the Muppet Show. I'm sure and obviously some of the people on the Muppet Show must be connected to the to the
someday we'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking about the Muppet Show, obviously I think we're done with our notes for minute 123.
You're gonna come back tomorrow, right, Greg? We got one more day of this
whole lot of nothing.
I think Gonzo would have done well in Exegol. I think you would have enjoyed it there. He would have kept the Sith Eternal in stitches. I don't know if there's any chickens on Exegol, which could be his downfall, but
space chickens.
Sure.
Right.
Space chickens.
Yeah,
of course they're coming back tomorrow. I mean, who even knows where we're going with tomorrow's minute?
How about this? Think about this for tomorrow. If you could see a movie remade with an all Muppet cast except for one human, what would it be? Think about that, and we'll be back tomorrow with another Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.